Hi everyone, before this video begins, just a bit of a warning, it may be a bit graphic. Following on from my last video, today I'm going to talk about my recovery in hospital following surgery and what happened. So on the morning of the day after surgery, I woke up to this tight feeling in my groin area. So one of the first things I did was lift up my bedsheet covers and just have a look, see what it actually looked like there. I discovered that I had a lot of bandages around me with dressing and packing underneath, so I couldn't really see much anyway. I also saw that I had a tube attached to me with a bottle on the end of it collecting blood, and that turned out to be a blood drain. I'm not sure how I didn't notice that the night before. After this, I spent a bit of time watching TV before being given my breakfast, but I didn't really fancy eating. But I also had a drink of orange juice that I quite liked, and I was also a bit fascinated about that it had some cling film over the top of a cup, as I've never seen it before on a cup. I do seem to get amused by the smallest things. I drank the orange, and then the nurse that was going to be looking after me that day came in. They took off all the tubing that was attached to me and also took the needle away that was poking my hand, and that just gave me a lot more freedom of movement, because before it was like I was attached to a lead, but now I can move my arms everywhere. I was expecting to be told that I have to spend all day in bed, but the nurse then asked me if I wanted to get up. So the nurse helped me carefully get up and then walk over to a chair that was in my room. She then changed my bed sheets and pillows. I was quite frail and a bit wobbly, so the nurse helped me get changed, and then she gave me my medication in a small cup for me to take when I was ready. She kept offering me a bed bath, but I just kept saying I was fine because I assumed I did. But considering that I had surgery the day before, I probably did smell quite a bit and I just didn't notice it. She's talking to me about video editing, and I was wondering how she knew that I was interested in it. My memory can be quite bad, and what I didn't realise at the time was it was the nurse that took me down to theatre the day before, and we talked about video editing there while I was waiting for surgery to begin. A little later on, I accidentally knocked one of my cameras on the floor, so without really thinking about it, I carefully got up, leaned down on the floor and picked it up myself without any issues. I felt completely fine doing it, so I didn't really feel the need to call a nurse. Later on, my mum came to visit me, so I put in my camera towards her.
What?
I am quite clumsy, so during her stay, I accidentally knocked a mirror off a table onto the floor. I just ended up pushing it along the floor with my feet and then pushed it towards my mum for her to pick up. My breathing sounded really bad that day. After my mum left, I didn't really do much more that day. I just mostly spent it watching TV, watching videos on my laptop, and regularly had nurses checking my blood pressure, my temperature, and giving me my medication that I needed. For dinner, I ate the food that my mum brought for me, and then I just ended up having an early night. The morning of the second day post-op went pretty much similar to the day before, with me watching TV, using my laptop and having breakfast. The dressing and bandages that I had on started to feel really tight, but luckily the nurse Laura paid me a visit to remove them. Once she removed them, she took some photos for me using my camera so I could see what it looked like. I can't really show the photos on here because they are a bit graphic, but what I can say is I couldn't really see too much anyway, but what I could see was a line of stitches down each side, and it's also swollen at each side as well, and it is starting to go red because of all the blood there. It was a bit of a shock when I first saw my results, as it was a huge change and I wasn't really sure what to think of it, but I do like it now. Something that I wasn't expecting to see was that the blood drain tube actually went through a hole in my skin, and that was held in place with stitches, And then after finding this out, Laura told me it's time to remove it. And it might hurt a bit. Laura then cut the stitches and slowly pulled out the tube. It was a weird feeling, but it didn't hurt. I did still have the packing inside of me, and that would stay there for a few more days. But with the dressing and bandages removed, I felt like I had a lot more freedom with my movement. Somehow all those bandages actually limit the way you can move. I later found out that I had a big blister on my butt, and when I went into the bathroom to have a look at it, I discovered that I could actually see where the needle went into my spine during surgery. For lunch I ate some biscuits, which I then accidentally knocked some on the floor, so I got up and cleaned the mess up myself. I was actually quite proud of myself for doing that. I then watched the Simpsons movie, which for some reason reminded me that I had surgery 2 days before. I can't think why. My mum then came for her daily visits and gave me some cream for the blister on my butt. I was feeling a lot better than the day before and managed to do a fast walk around my room quite easily. That evening the canteen staff realised that I wasn't actually eating any of the food that was on the menu, so they arranged for me to actually have something that I would eat and could eat as well, and they pretty much just cooked me a big plate full of chips, and they were really nice. On the third day post-op, apart from still having a catheter, everything felt normal again. It was just like the other days, with the nurses checking on me, giving my medication, and just being someone to talk to. I was given toast for breakfast, so I finally ate something for breakfast from the hospital. I don't know if that was always on the menu, but it took me 3 days to find it. I later got myself changed out of my hospital clothes into my own clothes, and then had a visit from my mum. But this time she is also joined by my sister. What my sister didn't know was I was tracking my mum's phone, so I knew exactly when I was at my hospital door. Nothing really important happened that day, and it's just really a rest day. The fourth day post-op is what I consider to have been my worst day at the hospital. It wasn't a bad day to do my recovery, as I was going quite well. It was mentally a bad day. I do have learning difficulties, which means that I can have trouble adjusting to some things, especially if I can't plan ahead. And I can easily get overwhelmed over small things if I'm having a bad day or in a noisy environment. On this day I was overtired since I didn't have much sleep the night before, which then led me to getting grumpy, and that meant that it wasn't going to be a good day. During the day I just started to get upset, as I didn't know when the nurses and any other staff would be coming into my room. And on this day quite a few staff members came in my room during the morning, and I just led me to getting overwhelmed, as at that moment I just wanted to be in a quiet environment so I could calm down. It isn't anyone's fault at the hospital, as I was just having a bad day, and those just sometimes happen. I had made the hospital aware in the weeks before I was admitted that things like this may happen, so at least the hospital was aware that something like that might happen. I didn't take it out on any of the nurses. I wasn't rude to them or horrible to them, and I tried my hardest to stay calm around them. For most anyone would have noticed was that I kept shutting my door every time someone left my room, because I just wanted to be on my own. In the end, I did just call my mum up in tears, as I just wanted to go home and rest. But luckily my mum was close by, and when she got to the hospital she's able to calm me down and convince me that staying at the hospital was the best thing for me, and I had actually done quite well up to that point. I ended up falling asleep on the chair while my mum was still there, and that managed to calm me down, which was good. Falling asleep usually calms me down, and it worked. The rest of the afternoon and evening went quite well. The fifth day post-op was a much better day, and it was finally the day that I'll get the packing inside of me removed, ready for my first dilation. The nurse Laura came in and got me to spread my legs apart while sitting on the bed. She slowly pulled the packing out of my vagina, which did feel really weird, and I was surprised by how much was actually inside of me, because when I thought she stopped pulling it out, she pulled even more out. The packing inside of me just looked like a bloody mess. After Laura went, I just watched some TV for a while, and I was watching the news and saw that this orange person was coming to visit the UK, but I don't think that's that important. Another nurse came in a little bit later, and although I didn't really understand what was happening at this point, she took the catheter bag off and put a thing in the end of the tube, and I was hoping that this meant I was getting the catheter removed at that point, but no. Turns out that they just needed a fresh urine sample from me so I can check for an infection, and I do think I had an infection, as the catheter tubing had this fluffy white thing inside it. An hour later, Laura came back with a do not disturb sign, which was stuck onto the door, and it was time for her to show me how to dilate. I was given 2 dilators at my pre-op appointment to bring me to the hospital ready for this moment. I had a smaller dilator, which is purple, and a bigger one, which is blue. Laura then got me to go back onto my bed and put a glove on my left hand and got me to hold a mirror with my right while I had my legs spread apart on the bed. She then showed me where everything was on my new body part. I don't remember what she said, and I still don't really know what all the bits are called. As it was only 5 days post-op, it did look a mess. Since I was quite swollen and everything was new to me, it was difficult to find the vagina opening. So I was shown how to find it by using a finger on my left hand, so I would know where to insert the dilator, which I was holding with my right hand. For my first time dilating, I did only use the smaller purple dilator. Because of the swelling, it was really difficult to get it in, but I eventually managed to get it in most of the way. It was really uncomfortable, but I needed to hold it there for 20 minutes. At this point, I really hated dilation, and I didn't want to do it ever again, but I knew that if I gave up, I would actually regret it, because there'd be no point of going through all that surgery for nothing. I kept up and held it there, even though it's uncomfortable, and 20 minutes later, I had successfully completed my first ever dilation. And now it is time for the douche. Laura took me to the bathroom and got me to stand in the bath. The douche has got a bottle thing with liquid in it that can be stuck into the vagina, and it just basically washes it out. So I was standing in the bath, Laura got the bottle and just stuck it inside the vagina, squeezed it, a load of liquid came out, and then she took it out, and it was done. Only takes a few seconds. And doing the douche cleans the vagina out, which is really important during the first few weeks in recovery. Once this was done, I was allowed to take my first shower since surgery, and it felt really nice to be able to just give myself a wash and to wash my hair. The only issue with dilation was that afterwards I was walking a bit like a penguin, as I wasn't used to the feeling of having a gap between my legs. I had to dilate 3 times a day, so a few hours later I tried my second dilation. The second time dilating, I had to do it on my own, as Laura had to deal with an emergency elsewhere in the hospital. But I managed it and was able to try using a bigger dilator too, which I really hated at the time, but it's quite easy to use now. Later on, I had some friends visit me, which I originally knew from college, and was having a nice catch up, and they also gave me an Aero mint chocolate, which I quite liked. And it was also nice to see them, as on this day my mum couldn't visit me because she had something important to do. When they left, I had my last dilation of the day before going to bed early. I still have my catheter in, and it's going to be removed the next day. The 6-day post-op was meant to be my final day at the hospital, and the nurse woke me up at midnight to remove my catheter. Getting the catheter removed stung a little bit, but it wasn't too bad. After everything I went through getting the catheter removed, which is like a minor thing, the nurse told me that I need to provide 3 urine samples before they let me go home. So they put a bowl in the toilet for me to go in, and I was told to call the nurse whenever I was able to provide a urine sample. I was hoping that passing urine would be really easy, but it is the complete opposite of that. A little later on, I tried really hard to pass some urine and it just wasn't happening. I was trying very hard to pass some out, and eventually I managed to pass a little amount, but to do this I had to sit on the toilet seat with my feet actually on the seat and push really hard, and that hurt quite a lot. It also made me poo in the bowl by accident, but at least it showed that my bowel worked. After each time I passed some urine, my bladder was scanned using an ultrasound machine to see what was left in my bladder. From the scans, it was clear that I couldn't actually empty my bladder, and no matter how hard I could try to do it, it wouldn't really pass much because my urethra was blocked. I ended up being awake for most of the night trying to pass urine without much success, and time 8 AM I just gave up. When I did give up, I just sat down on the floor where I had been keeping my bags and started to pack my stuff. While doing this, a nurse walked in, and I think I gave her a bit of a shock because from her point of view, she walked in and saw me on the floor. She probably thought that something was really wrong with me, as I assume that most patients a week after surgery don't just sit on the floor, cross-legged, and pack their stuff. And apart from having a full bladder, I actually felt fine. Although I didn't even feel my bladder being full, but the scan showed it. A bit later, when the nurse Daniel paid me a visit, he asked me if I was having any issues, and I was. So I told him that I was having issues with going to the toilet, and then he had to look at my medical notes, and then immediately went and got a surgeon, Dr. Bellwinger. Dr. Bellwinger is the other surgeon at the hospital who works with trans people. Dr. Bellwinger came to see me, and it's decided that I need another catheter inserted. A short while later, Daniel brought a table ring with the catheter supplies on it, and another nurse came along too to help with inserting the catheter. I was told to lay on the bed, and then they slowly inserted the catheter, and while I was doing it, my leg was shaking a lot for some reason. I'm not really sure why though. Once they inserted the catheter, the bag filled up quite a lot, and quite quickly. I actually ended up filling up the entire bag. It was suspected that my issue was only temporary because of the swelling, so I was still being allowed to go home that day, but also had to have a catheter now. So I went home with a catheter, and I was given 2 different types of bags. I had a smaller day bag which straps around your leg. That means you can walk around without holding a catheter. And I was also given a night bag, which is a bigger bag that we usually use in a hospital. The catheter also had a tap on the end of the tubing before the bag, so I also didn't always need to have a bag attached if I didn't want one, and I could just use a tap on the catheter to go to the toilet if I wanted to. I would have just needed to remember to empty my bladder, but for most of the time I actually did just use the bags anyway. Not long afterwards, my friend came to pick me up, and I was given my discharge papers and sent to a pharmacy near the reception to collect my medication. I was basically prescribed a load of painkillers and I think an antibiotic for the infection that I probably had. I was able to walk out of the hospital without any help. My friend did carry my bags for me, but that was it really. And I was able to walk down the stairs without any issue. If you didn't know that I had surgery a week before, apart from the catheter, you wouldn't have known that anything was wrong. I was just acting like how I usually do, and I was actually walking quite quick. I left the hospital doing what I usually do and took some photos of the buses on the journey home, and what I didn't know at the time was just 10 days later I'll be back at the hospital. Hi everyone, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe, and while you're at it, why don't you check out a previous video. Bye!